This is a crazy segment. This is the Candace Owens RFK segment. If Thomas Pynchon wrote novels about podcasters, he would write this segment. A lot of names, a lot of details. None of it really adds up to all that much at the end of the day, but it is quite entertaining. All right, so see if you can follow along. Okay, so this is a Substack here called House in Habit, Media for the People, by the People, since 2021. This is the Substack project of a journalist named Jessica Reed Krause. She is now a MAGA person, very close to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., big fan of Bobby Kennedy. Jessica Reed Krause and Candace Owens are feuding about relatively trivial matters up until a day or so ago. So Vanity Fair writes the article, Candace Owens and Jessica Reed Krause are in a massive MAGA world spat, and the party fissures are showing. So this will catch us up briefly. When even Donald Trump's loyal foot soldiers aren't obediently falling into line, pay attention. Two of MAGA's most strident non-elected voices, Candace Owens and Jessica Reed Krause, are at one another's online throats over what appears to be some she said nonsense, firing off dozens of Instagram stories apiece that can be summed up as how dare she. But the context is not necessarily important. What they reveal to outsiders are the first visible cracks in the moral desert of the MAGA base. Krause, you'll recall, is a mommy blogger turned self-described independent media making politics fun again, who frequently shared political reporting in the form of Instagram stories of herself watching network news from a hotel bed or begging favors for access to events like the confirmation hearings for her number one boy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Both Krause and Owens discuss not just politics in their content, but also fancy themselves investigative journalists with a special interest in celebrity gossip and lawsuits. This appears to be where the public screaming match began, with Krause insisting, essentially, that Owens copied her by repeatedly talking about the ongoing Justin Baldoni-Blake Lively legal mess. In a March 22nd Substack newsletter article, Krause began by bemoaning male dominance in media. She declared her younger self enchanted by clever and intuitive women telling the story behind the story with prose sharp enough to cut glass. She lashed out at several male conservative commentators by name and by gesture, and even accused Tucker Carlson of being on a weird bender. She also mentioned Ian Carroll by name in that piece as well.
Did those women write well enough not to use cliched phrases like sharp enough to cut glass?
Yeah,
I would hope so.
Would hope so. Very blasé writing there.
I would hope you were looking more at Dorothy Parker than Hedda Hopper.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Jessica Reed Krause runs this Substack here, and she apparently hired Emily Hagan, a journalist, to write a smear piece about Candace Owens, uniquely Candace Owens, not just one of a few mentions in the previous article, but she hired this woman, Emily Hagan, to write a smear piece about Candace Owens. And apparently, Olivia Nuzzi was brought on to sort of edit the piece and foolproof it and make sure that it was ready to go. Olivia Nuzzi is the woman who was named in the sexting scandal with RFK Jr. back in mid to late 2024. Now, this article was ultimately spiked because Nuzzi didn't feel like it was good enough or foolproof enough to be published, and the author lost interest once she got notes, and so the article was never published. But Emily Hagan reached out to Candace Owens to tell her how the article got spiked, and that brings us to Candace Owens saying, in a shocking twist of events, we learn that Olivia Nuzzi, RFK Jr.'s sexting companion, is orchestrating media hit pieces via House in Habit. What do me, Tucker Carlson, and Ian Carroll have in common? Is this not a Thomas Pynchon novel already? Like, look at how many names.
It
look
really
how fucking
is.
crazy it is. Like, it's just like a fucking character-based nonsense
This
story.
is the Gravity's rainbow of podcast gossip.
Exactly right. Yeah. So you have RFK's sexting mistress brought on to proofread a Candace Owens hit piece for hire at the House in Habit Substack publication. Now, what this all leads to is Candace Owens coming up with a fakakta reason for why RFK Jr. must be under the influence of sexual blackmail. So here she goes.
I'm going, what does Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Ian Carroll have in common? Especially to then say something as petty as I'm copying her and trying to rebrand. That in and of itself to me registered as a conspiracy, because something you should know about neocons, the forever war, send American sons and daughters to die perpetually overseas in lands and territories that they don't recognize, is that one thing that they have in common is that you must worship Israel, the foreign state. And here you have three independent voices who are being smeared and libel, who don't do that, and who truly are not being controlled by anybody else, despite the implications of these pieces. And
okay, so Jessica Reed Krause is MAGA. Olivia Nuzzi is not MAGA, but they both like RFK, and they're both teamed up to commission hit pieces, according to Candace Owens, on anti-Israel conservatives. That's the plot.
Does RFK show up at the door dressed as a pizza boy with his dick in the box at some point?
Yeah, right, exactly.
when she was revealed of who was overseeing this piece and who was going to personally edit it, we found out that this person was Olivia Nuzzi. Clean shot, Olivia Nuzzi said. It needs to be a clean shot. They are speaking like they are an assassination hit squad. Who is this human being? Who is Olivia Nuzzi? Why is she calling shots, clean shots, on people like Candace Owens and directing and being some ghost hand behind the scenes? And it's not, once you understand who Olivia Nuzzi is, shocking that she would go after Tucker Carlson. What's rather shocking is that Jessica Reed Krause is bragging about how close she is to Donald Trump while having a person who is taking shots at real conservatives in this country. So I'm going to tell you about Olivia Nuzzi. She was a correspondent for New York Magazine. Yes, the one that we just uncovered, that whole weird senior writer, sympathizer. She was a correspondent for New York Magazine from 2017 to 2024. So she had quite a long tenure there. And so, yeah, she had quite a long tenure at New York Magazine until in September of 2024, New York Magazine had to place her on leave after it was disclosed that she was having an affair with RFK Jr. Now, they both maintained at the time that this was clearly a sexting affair. But the other element of this is super interesting. Shit. Olivia, currently living in Malibu, which means now she doesn't live in a city, which means now she's got to drive a car, is driving a car. She's driving a foreign car in Malibu. And her license plates, and I'm not giving you the end of a license plates, but her real true license plates are, and I can show you here, RFK 66 blank blank.
Oh my God.
That is some coincidence. I gotta tell you, okay? I gotta tell you, it's a weird thing. It's not every day that your license plates reflect the sexting scandal that you just had, okay? It's not every day. Now RFK is in office, and I'm thinking, okay, he had to defend his Rabbi Shmuley.
Okay, before we get into that, so I'm using as a basis for this the tweet here from Red Pill Salon, who for time's sake cut around the part where Candace Owens mentions that Olivia Nuzzi apparently does not come from money. And so it's kind of strange that a person freshly fired from a job that couldn't have paid all that well anyway moves to one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the country and is now driving a foreign car with license plates that say RFK on them, right? So the insinuation here, and it's not terribly far-fetched, is that Olivia Nuzzi is getting some Carroll from the sexting partner and is perhaps holding that over his head in some sort of blackmail payola scam. So this goes on.
Destroyed in a debate, but he's kind of made anti-Semitism his focus. This is a tweet from him that he recently sent out. Anti-Semitism, like racism, is a spiritual and moral malady that sickens societies and kills people with lethalities comparable to history's most deadly plagues. In recent years, the censorship and false narratives of woke cancel culture have transformed our great universities into greenhouses for this deadly and virulent pestilence. Making America healthy means building communities of trust and mutual respect based on speech freedom and open debate. And then he included a link to the hhs.gov. So that's weird. And then he's decided that anti-Semitism is a health crisis.
Learn more about the symptoms of anti-Semitism. Go to hhs.gov. Ask your doctor about if you might have anti-Semitism.
In my younger days, I had some anti-Semitic thoughts, and I had immediately gross and bumps all over my dick. That weren't
Symptoms
there
include
before.
enlarged nose. Hey, doc, is my nose growing? It's because I came down with a case of anti-Semitism.
Yeah. All right. So she goes on. All right. So she's like, okay, so this is kind of weird here. You have the pro-Trump woman and the anti-Trump woman who both like Bobby Kennedy smearing anti-Israel conservatives, while one of them seems to be living on Kennedy's dime in Malibu after getting busted sexting with him. So now she's like, okay, why is Bobby Kennedy using his position as HHS to basically spread Zionist propaganda when a lot of people who supported his nomination, which was not me for the record, but people who did, made the argument, hey, how much harm could he do to the Palestinians as HHS secretary, right? Well, they find a way. So here we go.
And then he included a link to the HHS.gov. So that's weird. And then he's decided that anti-Semitism is a health crisis. Like, this is not what we put you. This is just not what we put you in office for. I don't care who needs to debate any of this, other than this is not what people put you in office for. We wanted you to go after vaccines. We wanted you to go after the CDC. We did not want you to establish anti-Semitism as a health crisis. And The Atlantic was right when they wrote this headline: "Make public health officials stay in their lane again. Fighting anti-Semitism isn't RFK Jr.'s job." Yes, that is correct. What are we even speaking about here? Why is RFK Jr. feel like he's just being moved by Rabbi Shmuley in the background and not focused on what we put him in office for? Why is RFK Jr. not the first person that's all over the JFK files? If he's going to do some outside work outside of focusing on health, and he's really worried and wants to dedicate his time, I would think maybe looking into the JFK files and giving us some sort of a conclusion on what he thinks could be interesting, but that's not what he's doing. And so what's interesting is I have begun to wonder who's got something on RFK Jr. And indeed, as I said, because Olivia Nuzzy's got a big mouth when she's not busy hunting big buck, there is some interesting stories that are circulating in the background. And it does, again, at least according to what is circulating all throughout the PR world, thanks to Olivia Nuzzy, and she wants to make sure she protects RFK. She's made that clear. She wants to protect RFK. She doesn't want this stuff made public. Is that there's some sexual blackmail in the background that's going on. Some sexual interest in the background that's going on. And let me tell you, if Olivia Nuzzy knows it, we could guess that some other people know it. And I'm willing to guess a guy like Rabbi Shmuley would make sure that he knows it. And so I'm just finding this whole thing and the stuff that I've heard about RFK Jr. and the stuff that I know Olivia Nuzzy has on him to be interesting.
Okay, we need to put some Shmuley clips on the soundboard.
All right. So first of all, it looks pretty clear based on the evidence that she unearthed that Nuzzy's getting paid off. But that aside, because RFK's servile kowtowing to Israel started long before that particular scandal, RFK is an ex-junkie sex pervert. God knows what kind of video Israel and the Mossad have laying around to use on him. That was always obvious. Now, Candace Owens, even before she kind of came out like this with Israel, I always had a certain amount of respect for her moral consistency. I always felt that she was sincere, even if I didn't always agree with her, even before Israel. With the Israel stance, obviously, more respect for her. But hey, man, this is why all we had to do was read his book to say this guy's a fucking whack job, man. Like, you lay down with dogs, wake up with fleas. Like, you just can't get in bed with these people and then be surprised when they show their ass like this. It was very clear who this guy was. And thinking you're going to be able to parse out the one from the other and it's not going to come back to bite you. Here you are.
Exactly. So I think Candace Owens is dipping into cope because she was personally called out by this journalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she is necessarily coming out and trying to get in front of this by saying, well, we were all duped by RFK. I think she was sucked into this by the fact that this journalist mentioned her by name. Mm-hmm. But you want to take a look. Okay, so now the cope escalates. Okay, so Ian Carroll, who's also named in one of the House Inhabit Substack pieces, he gets named by Candace Owens earlier in this video. he really lays it on thick here. So these are some highlights from this is a 9-minute video. I have about 4.5 minutes of it. Here he is kind of recapping this. I apologize if it's tedious to hear some of this, but I know it took me about 3 or 4 times hearing all the names to get the details straight. So let's hear Ian Carroll talk about his take on this whole affair.
Story is currently breaking in many directions all across the internet, and American politics is not going to be the same after this weekend. That's not hyperbole. This is not just a hook.
Okay, well, it's almost the end of the weekend, and American politics are pretty much the same as they were 2 days ago. To Russ's point, what this at the end of the day for a lot of these people is giant cope. Because, yeah, look, here, is there a blackmail ring run through Israeli and American intelligence agencies? Yeah, almost certainly is. Got the book right here. And if there is, I think it's a pretty safe bet that RFK's name is on there. I mean, to leave RFK off of that blackmail list would be like having a 50th anniversary party at the Copacabana and not inviting Tony Bennett. You know, I mean, if Israel's going to have a blackmail list, RFK, I mean, it makes perfect sense he's on it.
Of course he's on it.
However, what these guys are trying to insinuate now is that Olivia Nuzzi honeypotted him and that this is the blackmail they have on him, which implies, of course, that he was squeaky clean before he got mixed up with this deep state honeypot, which ignores everything that Russell was talking about, which we will get into in a few minutes. So we have that. But let's
Ian Carroll at this point, he's the Pedro Pascal of the podcasting world.
Yeah,
he's in everything. And you're just like, why is he there?
Why is he there? Yeah, exactly. All right, so here's
Can I watch anything that Ian Carroll's not in?
That's right.
I mean, he's fine, but why is he in everything now?
He's in everything now.
Don't really know where to start. But this is the kind of story that I've gotten enough calls from enough people tonight, and there's enough going on that I feel like we need to make a video right now to keep some people safe and to get as much as we all know out on the internet right now so that everyone can be safe. And the best place for everyone to start is at Candace's video that she put up today, that she very aptly titled, One Nation Under Blackmail. And we're going to start the story here with our girl Jessica, House and Habit. She had tasked one of her writers, Emily Hagan, with writing a hit piece about Candace Owens. They were trying to create or dig up some dirt on Candace's husband for some reason to take her down. For reasons we'll kind of get to in a second. Emily submitted a draft and Jessica, House and Habit, was having her girl, I believe, Olivia Nuzzi, read through it, and it was like, we can't publish that, it's too 4chan-y. House and Habit clarified that it needs to be a clean shot. A clean shot to take down Candace Owens. Good fucking luck with that. If you don't remember who Olivia Nuzzi is, she's the woman that had the sexting scandal with RFK last year, who then cozied up to House and Habit for reasons that are not entirely clear, and sort of started secretly editing there behind the scenes and kind of replacing people and getting really close to Jessica Reed Krause, House and Habit, for reasons that are still not entirely clear as far as I'm aware. To be fair, there's a lot that is not entirely clear because this is so complicated and everything in this video is hearsay and rumors. And obviously, when they tried to come to Candace...
It's a very convoluted story we're spinning to try and keep our subscriber base intact. Because the problem is they love RFK's stances on health, but they hate his stance on Israel, and they have to reconcile that. And it's very difficult without alienating a huge part of the audience.
And it created all this drama, and Candace don't take no fucking shit. And Jessica had been super mean to the writer of the article and that had then fired her. And so her and Emily had all this drama, and then her other best friend, and it had gotten super fucking vitriolic. And eventually Emily was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go to Candace and come clean and say what's going on. That's how we got this video.
This is.
And I was only 15 minutes into this video when I started getting interrupted by all kinds of calls from all kinds of people all over the country that have more information about this. Because this story is way past the point of no return. And it is way bigger than some girl drama. So at the second Trump Butler...
Actually, no, it's not. Not really.
No. Yeah, I don't know about Thomas Pynchon. I think there's more Mindy Kaling.
Yeah, it could be. It's Thomas Pynchon in the fact that there's so many names, so many generic sounding names to keep track of. You know, it's a huge web of stuff.
Rally in July of last year.
There's Mindy Kaling's next series for HBO.
Yeah.
House and Habit was hanging out with some of the people that I know, and apparently receiving a bunch of phone calls all about this blackmail situation with the Olivia Nuzzi sexting scandal. And while she was taking calls, she was kind of filling them in excitedly on the story as she was getting it, kind of as though she was going to write a piece about it. And what they were told is that it was many, 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 many instances of recorded video sexting stuff. They were told in some form that Olivia Nuzzi's husband was in on recording it, whether that is him tapping her phone or her and him as a husband-wife couple kind of targeting him. I mean, Olivia Nuzzi did insert herself into the RFK campaign, and then all this stuff happened.
Okay, so this is where they try and paint RFK as the victim of a deep state honeypot thirst trap. Watch the associations he makes here.
And then when I was at Rescue the Republic event just a few months later, I was hearing all kinds of rumors, and a lot of people were hearing rumors about dick pics that were apparently coming out that never came out. I suspect that that was a misunderstanding of this story, sort of being
Nobody told me about that.
rumored around. So what we
was
got was a story that Olivia Nuzzi and him had a romantic, emotional connection over the phone that had caused her, it was inappropriate, and he apologized, and so she left the campaign sort of, and then went and got real cozy with House and Habit, who had a lot of details, who was right. I don't know what happened there, but I know that what a very trusted person on my end told me that they heard at that event was that it was not just that. It was recordings of video sex. There's also a lot of swirling rumors of other people that he's been having sex with that are very heartbreaking and inappropriate. But I started to wonder, who might Olivia Nuzzi and possibly her husband,
Stefanik,
who, if they'd had that, who might they have passed such blackmail to? Either sold it or been sent by some group. And you need look no further than her Wikipedia page to learn that in 2013, just out of university, actually while still in university, she volunteered as an intern for Anthony Weiner's New York City mayoral campaign.
Oh, well, case closed. She volunteered for Anthony Weiner.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Secret sex lives of perimenopausal bloggers.
Yeah.
That's
So
my pitch.
She volunteered for Anthony Weiner's mayoral campaign 12 years ago, so obviously he must be mixed up in this. Like, it's so fucking crazy. Like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, let's entertain this for a second. Here, okay, he goes now. So now we know where this is going. Now it's Hillary, it's Huma Abedin, it's the Zionist globalists.
If you don't know about Anthony Weiner, look it up. And that is a direct tie to Huma Abedin and to Hillary Clinton, and to, at that point, just pick your term for whatever deep state groups you want to talk about. That blackmail could be anywhere by now, but I think we all know who has it.
Meaning Israel. Okay, wow. What a convoluted fucking story that is. Now, look, as I said, and as Russ said, it's very possible. In fact, it seems likely that Nuzzi is getting some money from RFK. I mean, she's living in a house in Malibu. She's driving a car with his initials on the license plates, right? So I'm not saying there's no blackmail going on there. But to concoct a story like this as if this is the bombshell that all fell into place within the past 6 months, that's where this becomes just massive cope. And our friend Big Mad Crab went a little viral here. He put together this video. We can play most of it. There's a copyright issue with some of it, so we'll cut it a little bit short, but we retweeted this. It's up to 650,000+ views.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You go Crab.
Go Crab, that's right. He quote tweets this. By the way, Big Mad Crab and Snow Himbo are friends. They have a new YouTube show called Prole Pilled, Prole Pilled. You should go check that out and subscribe. It's good. They're fun dudes, just like us. Fun dudes got to stick together.
Yeah, I like this guy, Crab. It's like he goes sideways, like a
It's like a Sofaga lemur, yeah.
Sofaga lemur goes sideways. That's why I call him Crab, man.
That's why I call him Crab. Yeah, he's like a crab, you know. Thomas Friedman says he's just like a crab. So Mad Crab says, he quote tweets Ian Carroll, says, if you are just finding out that RFK Jr. is blackmailed after spending your entire public career shilling for him, you are gatekeeping all the evidence we had over the last few years and purposefully led your audience off a cliff. Yes. And this is all cope to sort of wash their hands of the fact that they made a fuck ton of money and gained a fuck ton of clout by pumping this guy up, knowing eventually the Zionism was going to be a problem. They were hoping that because he's HHS secretary that it wouldn't be, but now he's tweeting shit like anti-Semitism is a bigger public health risk than measles. Now you got to kind of negotiate that, okay? All right, so here is some of Crab's video that went kind of viral here. So here's some of the evidence about RFK that predates this whole Thomas Pynchon, Mindy Kaling novel mashup, drama that we just talked about.
And Glenn then comes to the United States. It's hard for them to live here. And she comes and I think my impression was that, and I don't know, she was always wonderful to me and, kind. I mean, I knew Harvey Weinstein. I knew Roger Ailes. I knew O.J. Simpson came to my house. Bill Cosby came to my house. I've said this from the beginning. I knew
Charles Manson. I knew Squeaky Frog.
I am not running like that. I said I had a very, very rambunctious youth. I said in my announcement speech that I have so many skeletons in my closet that if they could all vote, I could run for king of the world.
You're talking there about the nanny situation. I mean, I do have to ask her. I mean, are you denying it or not?
I'm not going to comment on it.
All right. Well,
of course, I ran across Jeffrey Epstein at parties. I mean, at fundraisers for the Robin Hood fundraiser in New York. But other than that, I had no relationship with him.
You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, were you?
I was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 2 times.
Yeah. We only took it to the American Girl
the most pampered people by international aid organizations in the history of the world.
Do you have concerns about the level of Israeli influence in our politics here in the United States of America?
All right, there's the Jeopardy music, so we can play a couple seconds of that. We can't play anymore, but go check that out because there's the Friends theme song too. But you get the picture. And well done.
Nice work by Crab.
Yes, well done, Mad Crab. Absolutely. So, yeah, the idea that this Nuzzy thing is the bombshell and the source of all this intrigue is just cope. You're just playing hide the ball. You were playing hide the ball this whole time with him. Now, Crab's colleague and fellow friend of the show, Indy from INN, go check out their Substack, indymediatoday.com. Says, not only do we know about the Olivia Nuzzy stuff last fall, we also knew he had a lot of skeletons. We talked about it in our article documenting a bunch of red flags with RFK Jr. These screen caps were from this article. Now, the article gives a much more comprehensive list. We're only going to focus in on the sex stuff since that's the focus of the piece. But RFK told his second wife it was her fault he cheated on her 37 times in new recordings. According to a report, 43 suspected mistresses found in RFK Jr.'s phone. Did Cheryl Hines drive Mary Kennedy to self-deletion, shall we say? Actress gloated about relationship with Bobby Kennedy Jr. And of course, we don't have to play this video again, but this is part of Crab's montage. Yeah, he answered a question about a sexual assault allegation with, "I am not a church boy." Okay? So if there is a candidate for blackmail, he is the candidate. So obviously, I think it's more than likely that Israel has something on him. This is not news as of this week. This was not news as of last fall when the Nuzzy scandal broke. This has been baked into the cake of who this guy has been for such a long time. So Ryan Dawson replies to Ian Carroll, the story is old. It's just the slow folks are starting to figure it out. Not necessarily the slow folks, Ryan, but the folks like Ian Carroll who amassed over 1 million followers by gassing up Maha while also pulling in some of the anti-Israel, pro-Palestine stuff. This is all about negotiating that. It's all about reconciling the opinions of his that they love with the opinions of his that they hate and that are deal breakers for a lot of their audience. This is about keeping their audience together to keep the money flowing in. Revolutionary Blackout Network. I'm assuming this is Zoya who runs the House account over there. I could be wrong about that. If I am, forgive me. But RBN tweets from the House account, this story is old and Ian is pretending he just discovered it. But that's kind of his whole gimmick. Next, he'll reveal there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Yes, nice and one. Here's Nick Cruz tweets out, this RFK Jr. blackmail story is pure cope. RFK Jr. was a hardcore Zionist for years, and you idiots still supported him. Now they are trying to save face, claiming RFK Jr. is only advocating a cracking down on free speech for Israel because he's blackmailed. Just admit you was tricked by another Zionist con man. And he continues, whenever Trump, RFK Jr., or any of their heroes get caught blatantly selling out, they always try to rob these people of their agency. Trump is being manipulated. RFK Jr. is being blackmailed. Deeply unserious. Take responsibility for boosting obvious Zionist sellouts. RFK Jr. is being forced to say nice things about Israel, quote unquote. This motherfucker been spreading Zionist propaganda for years. Why are so many MAGA influencers so fucking stupid? The entire Kennedy family.
Because they're getting paid to be stupid.
Yes, exactly. This is all about keeping their audience together. It's all about audience retention. The entire Kennedy family have been diehard Zionists for decades now. Why the fuck do people believe that Israel have to blackmail RFK Jr.? The copium is insane. And our friend Misty Winston says people really out here still pretending RFK is a good dude who's just being blackmailed. This is a good point, too. He's being blackmailed because he's a scumbag. Yes, that's right. They don't turn you into a bad person by blackmailing you. They blackmail you because you've already done bad things. A self-confessed sex addict who cheated on his wife like it was his job and kept records of his conquests while being buds with Epstein and Maxwell. Use your heads, idiots. He's trash. Yes.
And the story of his wife who self-deleted is pretty heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah, it's terrible.
You know, look, in the end, people make that choice, but you could definitely make a strong argument that he drove her to that with inordinate cruelty, and the way the family treated her was a big part of it as well.
Yeah. So there is, I'm sure there's a file on RFK Jr. As thick as Whitney Webb's book here. And so I don't dismiss the story that there's something going on here that's more than what meets the eye with this Nuzzy character. But of course, they're trying to wash their hands of the fact that they tried to have it both ways forever. And what did we say in the run-up to Inauguration Day? It's going to be impossible to be both pro-Palestine and pro-Trump for much longer. And here we are. And not only is Trump mixed up in it, obviously, because he's the president, you would expect that from him. You got fucking RFK out here tweeting out nonsense about how anti-Semitism is. What the fuck are you doing? What the it certainly does suggest that you are under the thumb of Israel. The point is, he didn't just become under the thumb of Israel in the past couple of months. And they're trying to make it sound like, oh, there's this huge, crazy thing that's going on. Because if they can sell you on the idea that all this just happened now, then they are able to basically absolve themselves of the sin of having gaslighted you about RFK until this broke.
Well, and the popularity of figures like Candace Owens and Ian Carroll reinforce the point that I've made from being at MAGA events. Most of the MAGA people are not down with the Israel shit.
Right.
They tolerate it because the boss tells them they have to tolerate it. This is, I want you to make peace with Natalia. You want me to lay down for these guys, Michael?
Right.
In the end, they do not like that relationship. And that is why people who have been able to kind of dance that dance of being MAGA and anti-Zionist have done so well. And also by pretending, oh, wait until he gets in office. Well, now he's in office. That's why this is all coming apart. Because now they can't pull. So what do they say now? What do they say now when this administration is clearly not biding its time until they can put Israel in its place? Clearly, they are following through beyond anyone's wildest dreams almost of how far they would go, how quickly. So now what do you tell your followers if your whole thing is that most of MAGA, I would wager most of MAGA is anti-Zionist, and you've built an audience on being pro-Trump, anti-Zionist, and Trump, RFK, all these figures are true to their word, fanatically Zionist. You could avoid the whole subject, but that's going to be tough. Your audience probably won't let you get away with it.
No, certainly not. I mean,
Says
in
what you
Carroll's
do,
case, certainly not.
But it's so absurd to suggest RFK's buddies with freaking Shmuley. He's buddies with this guy. What do you mean he changed? He didn't change.
No.
This was part of our beef with him all along, other than his batshit take on AIDS.
Right, which we were going to actually cover tonight because there was speculation that he was going to disband the infectious disease unit or whatever of HHS. It never actually happened, as to my knowledge. If that does happen, we'll cover that later in the week.
Please clap.